And
What's
I have
this?
gotten some interesting emails from Valve. I can't talk about most of them, but
Sure.
you know, I have had to work with Valve in the past to
Mhm,
get stuff working, and it is they don't mess around.
mhm,
We'll put it that way. They're cool, but they don't mess around.
mhm.
One of the things I had to do is it's not currently working, not related to the SSL errors, but you used to be able to log into my websites using your Steam account.
Right.
And you'd think that it'd be simple, because it is simple if you want to log in with GitHub or set up GitLab or Twitter or stuff like that. Some of those websites you do need to get reviewed before you can allow public logins.
Mhm.
Like Google, you need to get approval before you can do that. And others you don't. But in either case, they all use OAuth 2 behind the scenes to
Mhm.
make that
Mhm.
work. So this is your login with Google button and stuff like that on many websites. I wanted to set that up, but for Steam. Now, Steam does support OAuth 2 if, and only if, you contact Valve and you happen to be a big enough game studio. This is in their documentation. I don't know if the last part is, but you do need to contact them, and they only issue those client IDs that you need on a case by case basis. So that
Right.
leads me to believe that you need to be a big guns studio or publisher to get them, and that makes sense. It's so that you don't get your Steam phishing stuff, and people being able to take your random website and put login with Steam, and then suddenly you've logged into some sketchy website
Right.
that
Right.
steals your Steam ID.
Yeah, I've
It
seen a
makes
lot of
sense.
like games like Path of Exile do this, Marvel Rivals does this, but like your smaller games usually, I at least haven't seen anything that's relatively unknown have it.
Yeah. Now, the problem is that they also support OpenID. Now,
Mhm.
for the system administrators out there, I do not mean OpenID Connect, which is just OAuth 2. I mean OpenID, the old one.
Okay.
They do support that, and that's open to anybody. It's a bit of a nightmare to set up, but it's open to anybody. But it's also old OpenID, so it comes with the security flaws of old OpenID.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So my authentication provider, which is Authentic, I self-host it, does not support that old version of OpenID. And this is why it's not working right now.
Mhm.
In order to get Steam working, I need to set up a whole other authentication broker that's written by some guy on GitHub in C# as a Docker container.
It's always a good
And I
start.
run that locally, and I reverse proxy it behind a domain name, and I point Authentic at that. And what it does is it talks to Authentic using OpenID Connect, but talks to Steam using OpenID too, and somehow by the alignment of three dark forces and a blue moon, it works.
Mhm.
Right now it doesn't, because the application, for whatever reason, does not speak the right version of TLS, and it confuses my internet browser. Um, so it is an SSL error. It's not related to the one that has everything else down right now. So that's something. So Steam doesn't work right now. But the other thing that I had to do with Steam is I need to be able to publish builds.
Right.
Now, publishing a build to Steam right now involves you install Steam CMD,
Mhm.
which may be in your distribution's package manager, maybe not. Most likely not. It is in the AUR. But most likely what you're going to do is you're going to download the Steam SDK from Steamworks if you're a partner. And you use Steam CMD from that. And there's a weird command you have to enter and you have to do some like source engine scripting to configure it, which is just great. I love VDF scripts. They're great. That's sarcasm, by the way. And that's coming from the guy who wrote a Bash interpreter in C#. Anyway, so
Regarding
you set that all
regarding
up.
packages, just one sec. They do have documentation on this. It's available in multiverse on Ubuntu. On
Okay.
Debian, they do have a package. Arch, yeah, they literally tell you to get it from the AUR.
Yeah. So
And, oh, there is a Docker
yeah.
container though.
Excuse me. Um. So I had to set this up as a Docker container so I could do it from CI/CD, and it turns out that not many people upload builds to Steam using continuous deployment. It's just not a thing people do often, and if they do it, they don't talk about it. Because it is not technically possible. It is possible, because I've done it, but it is not easy. So, you know how you log into Steam? And on a new device, or if you're logging into something particularly sensitive, it'll do it every time. But most of the time on a new device, you only have to do it once. So maybe you bought a Steam Deck and you're signing into it for the first time.
Sure.
It goes and pops up a little Steam Guard window and says you've got to enter a 6-digit code that's been sent to your email or to your phone or whatever.
Yes.
So you enter that code in and you're signed in. And it works. Steamworks and Steam CMD, you have to do the same at the command line. And it works the same as on Steam UI. So, you enter the 6-digit code and then it works, hopefully. Assuming you entered the right code and it didn't expire. Now, this is great if you're a human being doing a human thing on a human computer. If you're a build robot running a continuous deployment job, you can't enter the code because you don't know the code because you cannot access an email address to get the code from. And even if you could, logs in GitLab are read-only, so you don't have a standard input. You can't enter the field. It'll crash CMD. It'll crash Steam CMD. That's great. So what you have to do is you have to log into Steam CMD on the same device that's going to run the GitLab job, but you have to do it as a human being.
Right.
And then you do the Steam Guard. And then there's some file buried deep in proprietary no man's land that I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal that has the credentials that log you into your Steam account. And you take that file, you store it as a repository secret, and you do not touch it. You do not touch that Steam account ever again, because if you do and you invalidate the Steam Guard code, you have to do it all over again. And you have to write the build job so that it takes this repo secret, downloads it, puts it in the right spot, and then hopefully it works. Now the other problem is you also need your Steam password as a repository secret. So that's great. Needless to say, I created a dedicated account that has no credit card attached to it and only has access to what it needs to.
Understandable.
So, I was able to get it to work, but it's a bit of a nightmare. And, the only reason I knew how to do it is because I was able to contact Valve and get them to help me. But it's not an easy process. So if you ever intend on developing a Steam game and do continuous integration, welcome to hell. Enjoy your stay.
So before you were mentioning OpenID, and just one random thing I want to mention with that, they provide icons that you're supposed to use if you're using the OpenID login. The icons they have here are the Valve icons from about 15 years ago.
Yeah, that page hasn't been updated in a while. Yeah, I don't use those icons. Sorry, Valve. I stole a random SVG of the Steam logo and put it there instead because that's all I could do. I cannot physically fit those icons in my authentic list of things you can use.
You just have like Google and whatever, and it's just like this giant banner.
It won't even give me the option to set that banner. It's just an icon.